what's going for you as we wait to see now where they want to go for it. We are straight in. Lots to talk about there. Anyone's Legend on the blue side, they're going to lock in the Taliyah first, which means LNG go to themselves with the Monkey King of the Wukong.
Yeah, I mean, look, Taliyah is incredibly strong. We've seen her a lot in the mid lane thus far, but is a flex in towards the jungle, which is why she's high priority. But I think Wukong fits perfectly for Tarzan. Like, strong early game, you're able to get like good presence in team fights with your ultimate as well. Like, it kind of sets up for what LNG's kind of style they're leaning into is, and will be the Ezreal picked up for light on the opposite side. So might be open up Iwandy to go for some roams.
Might be able to go for it, but we'll see what they want to try and do here as we wait to see anyone's Legends response to light on the Ezreal. It's going to be that Kaisa, which is kind of creeping back into relevance. It was very, very powerful for certain AD carries, and combo with the Nautilus. It's a match made in heaven. You get that combination in. It's just so powerful that just bursting down targets, specifically about at that level 6 mark.
And it's literally why we saw Ezreal start to fall off at MSI, right? Was because of how strong Kaisa was in lane against this pick. It means it's actually really difficult to leave the Ezreal alone in lane, because Kaisa can actually just follow him with the ultimate and pick him off. So you have to be incredibly careful as Light about how you want to play this, but looking to go for a heavily defensive pick here for Iwandy in the Braum. So definitely very much about team fighting here for LNG and trying to prevent some of the big engage tools that can come through from the Nautilus, and even blocking some of this Taliyah damage as well.
Wait to see where they want to go for it. Now with the Braum locked in, does cover a lot of those different dive engages you can get. The Unbreakable, fantastic at just stopping all that front kind of, you know, carry damage getting in behind enemy lines. And now LNG going to start banning away certain things. And they didn't like how the Gangplank was able to become a monster in that late game and nearly cost them the game for the side of LNG. So they're going to ban that one away. And now anyone's Legend, they're going to go towards things like the Aurelia as well. So still unsure exactly where the Taliyah is going. Could go mid, could go jungle, but right now they're focusing specifically on Ala and getting themselves a good top lane matchup.
Yeah, it feels like if you're going to ban the Aurelia, maybe you ban the Camille as well, you're setting up for like something like a Gnar for ZDZ in that top lane, because ZDZ more than likely going to be the one that has to take the blind pick here. Because you imagine, look, Forge is probably going to be the one taking the Taliyah in the mid lane. So, and Doinb, let's be realistic, is going to play whatever champion he wants to play.
Yep.
So I think keeping that top lane counter pick will work out really well for Ala. Maybe even look towards a Fiora ban as well. We've seen Fiora kind of creep up in meta, and even seen teams blind that Fiora because of how strong she can be in the top side. But we'll have to see what way this is going to pan out.
See what way they want to go for the Orianna band away. The Kayle and the Gangplank taken off the board here as LNG maybe feel like they're the ones that want to pick up the Swain. We have seen this for Doinb before. Did exactly what he needed to do in that last series up against BLG with the Swain pick, and now he's going to have himself that big survivability. But this is an interesting one as well. If we do see the Yone locked in, this was something that LNG banned away from BLG in their last series as a counter to the Swain. So curious to see now if anyone's Legend are feeling confident in this, and those AD kind of assassins as well, kind of a Forge specialty in the past.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, Forge has always looked pretty good on these AD assassins. Like, things like the Akali were always kind of in his wheelhouse, but starting to bring out things like the Yone is going to look absolutely fantastic as well, and giving it a little bit more of that presence in team fights is going to be spectacular. So we'll have to see exactly how much presence he's going to get from Xiaohao to try and help him out in that respect in the mid lane. But this is a strong team from anyone's Legend. I mean, great late game scaling, good team fighting, great lockdown thanks to the Nautilus and the Camille. And even then, if you don't want to go for team fights, the side lane split push is incredibly strong as well.
You will get the counter pick there for Ala, as he knows this one very well. The Jax into the Camille can be a bit of a soft counter to the Camille, especially when you get those counter strikes to be able to stop those true damage procs on your auto attacks. But now with both teams locked and loaded, it feels like anyone's Legend, like you said, they kind of ticked all the boxes here. They've got good engage, good ways of kind of playing around the fight, setting themselves up with control as well with that Taliyah. And of course, for LNG, they're going to have to try and survive that initial kind of takedown as well from the side of anyone's Legend.
Yeah, and I think for LNG, it's going to be a case of, like, how much of the early game can they control with this Wukong and Swain. I think the last time we saw them play against BLG, they actually ended up picking up the pace a lot when it came towards early skirmishes, because Swain and Wukong can do very well in these early skirmishes. But we'll have to see if they're going to be able to find them, because when you've got Ezreal in the bot lane, not as strong in those early skirmishes as you might hope, especially if you're trying to get Iwandy out of the lane, you could end up seeing anyone's Legend trying to make plays down towards that bottom side. So you just have to be very careful about how you try and orchestrate this as LNG. But if they can get the ball rolling, they've got a very strong mid game that they can try and play around with that Swain and Ezreal coming online with the two items.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be very curious to see how LNG are able to scale into that late game, or if anyone's legend can disrupt it again. Like we said, game one, it was LNG being proactive, as LNG setting the pace in those first 20 minutes, and anyone's legends were able to bring it back. But if anyone's legend can get that foothold, if they can start to scale up and bring the power that they have with these picks, like things like the Taliyah and such, with such fantastic spikes off of 1 and 2 items, this becomes a very scary game for LNG. And I'm curious to see what they can do to kind of quell the storm that could be anyone's legend.
Yeah, I think the saving grace again here for LNG is that you do have very late game scaling on anyone legend side. They don't exactly have the best of, early game squads. I mean, Camille wants time, Yone wants time, Kaisa even to a certain extent wants a bit of space. So I don't think you're going to be looking too heavily at like anyone's legend powering through a strong early game. They're going to be looking more to see if they can look for picks with this Taliyah in the kind of the early mid game, and trying to make that work for themselves instead until they get to that late game powerhouse. So there is an opportunity for LNG if they can continue to like set up through Doinb, moving 2 sides, working with Tarzan, that they can just run away with this from early into the mid game.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Little defensive vision there from LNG, making sure there is no shenanigans happening in their further bush for the side of anyone's legend, and everyone's just kind of panning out and doing what they can. Right now, we do see Tarzan on the Wukong. This is something that Kanavi played for JDG, and we've seen how damn powerful it can be when it gets those early leads, and this is something that Tarzan can just kind of be himself on and really make a difference without these lanes. So again, another thing to look out for in this early game.
Yeah, I mean, Wukong is so exceptionally strong at the moment. That's why we see it banned so often. Like, it's the fact that you get great early skirmishing, usually because of the passive. Now, it won't work out as well against an AP champion because it's the armor and the health regen that you get, but still going to be pretty nice. Then as well, like, the ultimate is just so insanely strong in team fights. The change to his W, being able to hop over the wall and come in invisible from, like, spots that players aren't expecting. Like, he just works out so well as a jungler right now, and I'm not surprised to see Tarzan kind of lock this one in, especially when you look at the way LNG's composition wants to work. Like, it's just full team fight all day, every day.
Well, push being given to Ala on the top side, to be expected, as he has got the counter-strike available to him, and now bot lane getting pushed in there by the Nautilus again. Nothing too untoward. Nice little move there from Forge, actually, to dodge away from the never move. And still putting down some decent trade back as well. And we haven't seen Yone in a little while, and I just wanted to ask you as well, why do we tend to see Yone put into things like the Swain in this current meta?
So I think the big one is more, having that AP jungler does open you up to try and go for this. And until Taliyah was back in the meta, you were kind of lacking in AP junglers. Elise isn't really in the meta. You don't really have a huge amount of plays that picks you can go for. Diana is kind of the other big AP jungler that we've seen that comes with the Yones and the Yasuos, but I think Yone in general, when you're up against this Swain, you usually have an alright time because Doinb is such short range on the Swain, means you can try and catch him with your third Q proc. You've got the opportunity to proc your W and also trade very effectively with your E, but as you can see, it does take a few levels before that comes online, but once it does, you actually can have a pretty good time here against the Swain.
Yeah, always that fun thing as well. You see in the early game, you're like, how is this a soft counter as such, or a soft counter pick? It is, but just later on in the game. As long as you survive the first few levels, once you start hitting level 6 and beyond, it does tend to be a little bit better. And now, Xiaohao looking to see if he can sneak himself around the vision, put himself into that bot side, and they have no idea where he is. So if they can crash this wave, get it to bounce back, this could be an opportunity, but just taking a little bit too long for the likes of Xiaohao to really make something happen.
Forge, though, trying to see if he can get on towards Tarzan there. Tarzan being an absolute bro and getting a lovely freeze there for Doinb to make sure that Doinb could get his back and get his boots. And a huge amount of that, getting the boots early, as we were talking about this matchup, is just like trying to avoid the Q, being able to create distance between yourself if Forge ever goes in with the E as well. So, at least LNG already kind of setting up Doinb nicely, as Ala takes a really rough trade on the top side.
Yeah, when that counter-strike goes down, ZDZ has all the priority in the world. You get such great trading patterns, and this is why I was saying that, like, yes, you can counter the Camille in certain senses, but you got to be able to hit the right abilities at the right time.
Yeah, and now you can even see Xiaohao off of first reset, moving up towards the top side to get the ward down, just making sure that ZDZ can crash this wave, but also just here to support because he knows Tarzan is up top side after helping Doinb in the mid lane.
be around here. Good ward vision here. And again, this is just Xiaohao playing the Taliyah very nicely. You clear so quickly on this champion now, especially with the kind of mini rework she received in the mid-season. And this is why you end up kind of just picking this champion. You have great CC, you have great wave clear, and also you just have great kind of turnabout, especially in the early game.
Yeah, also just kind of nicely using the bank of time that he picked up from Tarzan's pathing, right? Because Tarzan ends up pathing in towards the mid lane, he's like, look, I gotta help out Doinb, gotta help out my bro, make sure he can get back into lane nicely without losing too much CS. It does mean that Xiaohao is just able to full clear, reset, and as you can see now, right, like creating that CS gap between himself and Tarzan because he's got that earlier clear. He's now got a full clear on his second rotation, so going to be up a little bit when it comes to experience. But still had time to try and help out ZDZ in the top lane because he just knows that he's not investing as much time as Tarzan had into the mid lane.
Bit of a slower early start. Again, junglers are trying to see if they can maybe find something in either of these lanes. And again, both teams very happy just to continue pushing in these ways. We've got actually a decent crash coming out here. And actually, I didn't actually notice it until right now as he uses it. Light actually took the TP here. So recognizing that doesn't need the exhaust as Iwandy's going to be taking that for him. They're not going to really have kill pressure, so they don't need an ignite or anything like that. So getting that TP, recognizing that he can get those cheater recalls off, get himself back onto the map as quick as possible in this early stage where he's always going to be pushed in.
I was going to say, it's brave not taking a heal or an exhaust in this case. Definitely the exhaust as well, because the big thing here that we've seen from MSI is that, like, Betty at level 6 can 100% go up well against Light, like, can just kill him 1v1 if he ever gets the opportunity, especially if you're not running the exhaust as Light. And even when you look at, like, backline threat, right, like, dive from Camille, dive from Forge, I think the exhaust honestly could have worked out really well. I know it is on Iwandy, but at least that'll help out a little bit. But even the heal in that scenario, I think, could have helped out a good bit.
Well, not having a heal right now means Iwandy's going to be forced to flash away. He's getting pushed on top of, though. The ignite is ticking, and as soon as he gets pulled back, he should be first blooded. That's going to be going over to Forge on the Yone. Now Doinb with the demonic ascension jumps onto Betty and gets the kill off onto him there. Betty does not expend away his flash, and Xiaohao tries to flash over the back of the pit, but cannot get away from Light and his heat-seeking mystic shots.
You're just able to clip him on the backside of that, and even if he hadn't, Allah flashing over the wall as well to make sure that Xiaohao was definitely going to die. Bit of a funky skirmish. Anyone's Legend tried to start it off, but LNG now 2-1, and both those kills going to Light makes this bot lane so much easier for the Ezreal.
And that's exactly what we wanted to be seeing as well. I will say ZDZ does get a lot of free time in this top side. No TPs available for either Allah or for Light as we have a look at the replay here. And again, it starts from QiuQiu landing it, but it's onto Iwandy, who again can just tank up for so long.
Yeah, has the Unbreakable there to keep himself up. I think the big difference maker here was just the fact that you already had Allah roaming down from that top side, right? Didn't have the TP available, but was more than happy to just continue his walk down. And as soon as he shows up, you can see anyone's Ledger like, right, we have to get out of here. There's just a numbers of advantage for LNG. So it will be just clipped there onto Xiaohao. But with the Camille getting some time in the top lane alone, it will even out just a smidge. But it's still not ideal when you are 20 CS behind, essentially, to Allah. And as well, now you've got the impact that Allah's had on the spot side. It's a nice start for LNG.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, yes, you know, ZDZ got some free time in that top lane, but didn't really make that big of a difference. We'll see QiuQiu and Xiaohao trying to make something work. Reaver's Wall is available for QiuQiu, but not quite in a position with that pink ward being there to try and punish Allah, who is without his flash. Of course, we did see him use it just at the back of the Baron pit. And again, LNG just got smarter in this early game of how they're being able to play around these objectives. We'll see the never move land as they're trying to just jump onto Iwandy. Iwandy does not have flash, and he gets flicked back as well. But again, with that Unspreakable, he's just so tanky. Now Tarzan can come in and take down Forge. This is what we're talking about for LNG. They're just playing this map and these matchups so much smarter.
But that's the thing, this mid jungle for anyone's Legend is nowhere near as strong as the LNG's. Forge doesn't really have a huge amount of damage at these early stages, even going for the boots early. Same with the Taliyah. She's not exactly a powerhouse when it comes towards damage at this point in the game. So when you look towards the ability for Iwandy to kind of tank all that up, Doinb as well being able to heal it back up with the Demonic Ascension, you're just not able to burst out these members of LNG fast enough, and LNG respond greatly.
I mean, that's the Dragon, that's the Rift Herald, that's 3 kills, and it's a slow burner. We talked about the scaling from LNG as well earlier in the game, but this is just a perfect start for them now. Anyone's Legend will use the time and priority that they were given to try and maybe get something in this bot side. 2 plates going over to Betty as Light puts himself onto the tower. They do have access to the ultimates now. QiuQiu looks to try and make something, but now Betty's got to isolate it by himself. They could fully engage upon this, but they do know the Nautilus and the Taliyah are there, and with the Weaver's Wall available and Yone walking down towards the spot side, it's a bit too risky to fully engage.
Yeah, still though, nice damage on towards Betty, and I mean, this is just anyone's legend desperately trying to make anything stick in this early game, but they're not really getting it, right? No play in mid, the play in top didn't work out, and Iwandy and Xiaohao and Chocho are consistently trying to like move around, but they're being matched by Iwandy, and now again,
great flash there from Doinb. He dodges out from the Sealed Faith and just puts himself, yes, loses the summoner, but they've invested so much time, so many resources here. And now Light and Iwandy are going, cool, we know exactly where your support and jungle are. Betty can't really walk up onto this.
No. And that's the thing, right? Is like, you've now got this push where Light and Iwandy are going to be totally fine. Light will get another plate. Iwandy can now start to roam himself off this push as well if he really wants to, but just got to stick around for a little bit and make sure they can actually get the crash on this next wave, and then we'll reset with the cannon wave coming through.
Betty can't stay. Betty has to walk away from this as Tarzan is here with the Rift Herald, so you would imagine this is going to be almost the full tower being taken out here, but with Chocho finally arriving and Yone going into Fog of War means they can't really fully commit to it, but good moves here from LNG, and again, similar to Game 1, we're seeing good early game proactivity for them, understanding the matchups, understanding the state of the map.
Yeah, I was just surprised to see them use the Rift Herald that early in the bot side, right? Because 25 seconds until the next dragon, you could have tried to use it in conjunction with trying to set up for a second objective for yourself. And for LNG, right, their mid-game spike will coincide with the, if they can pick up this next dragon, kind of the third, fourth dragon for themselves. So I thought they'd kind of hold on for a little bit, but Betty hasn't backed, so they should just be able to rotate over towards that objective regardless, even if they don't get the Rift Herald down to the play.
Yeah, well, ZDZ and all are going to be continuing to trade back slaps like a wet noodle fight up in this top side. You kind of expect them to keep trading. No one's really going to have kill pressure on the other until very much later in the game. But with more waves being pushed in here by Light and Iwandy, they're going to get themselves another plate. And that's going to be more gold, more pressure going over this Ezreal, who is just starting to become a bit of a nuisance, a bit out of control. And with the dragon going over to LNG as well, they're going to put themselves on 2 dragons well before anything on the timer is kind of really going in anyone's Legend's favor.
And you can see, right, anyone's Legend aren't really responding overall to this. You got a little bit of a push there for Xiaohao in the top lane, but I don't really see them getting anything when it comes to turret plate. Forge as well was kind of questioning whether he should roam top or he should roam bot instead, so he gets off the tower, which means that now Swain's in position and Doinb's looking for the fight.
Oh, Allah takes a very unfavorable trade. Gonna have the Demonic Ascension popped here by Doinb to keep his top laner alive. They should be able to trade back this top lane turret for the one they just lost in the bot lane, so it was a 1,500 gold lead. It's going to be probably down to about 800, 900 now once this tower gets taken. As Forge just doing a little bit of scouting, sees if he can make something work for his team. But anyone's Legend, yes, they've lost the first few early skirmishes, but they're not to be outdone. And again, not a million miles away in terms of the actual relative gold.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to anyone's Legend. I said they wouldn't be able to get anything back on this top side. I didn't realize CDC was just kind of manhandling Allah and had already taken a ton of those turret plates and actually set himself up really well on this top side. So, I mean, nice job from them to actually trade back 1 for 1. Dragon, as we said, goes across to LNG, but you're losing a lot more when it comes towards Allah on the side. And as we talked about, like, ZDZ will have a great opportunity as this game goes on if he just gets more items to fight back against Allah, as he's already been doing quite well. And when you get towards team fights as well, this Camille can be such a threat for people like Light, who he can just jump on and try to one-shot.
It takes a big man to admit when he's wrong there, Dagda. I'll give you that. So well done to you. Character development. That's what it is. As we come
Nah, don't worry. My ego will be back in no time.
Oh, I'm not. I don't doubt it. Season 2, your ego makes a return. Oh, sorry. Spoilers to anyone in the future.
Yeah.
The script's already been set.
Dude,
but
come on. I hadn't watched.
I haven't finished Season 1 yet. What the hell? But we'll see now some more posturing in this mid lane. There's a minute and a half until that Rift Herald does spawn. And starting to see some first items being picked up. Essence Reaver, the first one there for Light, as he does go the non-mythic route for the Ezreal. Have been seeing it a lot more as of late. We have got the Imperial Mandate and double Divine Sunderers here for the side of LNG on Doinb, Tarzan, and Allah respectively. But Xiaohao going to try and help out their top laner. There's the Weaver's Wall coming over the top, so he has nowhere really to go. And yep, he's going to be dead. Xiaohao's got the damage with that Luden's Tempest, and that was a very clean execution there from anyone's Legend.
Yeah, the triangle of doom set up by anyone's Legend. You get the wall on one side, Fate Seal on the other, and there's a goddamn depth charge coming in the other direction. It's just like, there is nowhere for Allah to get out of that, and just really nicely orchestrated. And now, getting a little bit more push, getting a little bit more map control. This is actually looking fairly alright for the top side of anyone's legend. You just have to make sure now that you can start to lean that over in towards your team fights, which at least when we look towards like next dragon in 2.5 minutes, you've got the likes of the Kraken Slayer already picked up for Betty. You should have the Immortal Shield Bow for Forge. At least those initial mythics coming through can help out pretty substantially for anyone's legend.
Absolutely, and yes, you know, you won't have those ultimates you just expended for that pick for this Rift Herald fight, but importantly, you will have it for the Dragon in 2 minutes time. So, and anyone's legends are kind of saying to themselves, right, we don't care about this Rift Herald, we're going to take this bot lane turret, put our focus down towards there, because at the end of the day, that's all the second Rift Herald's going to get you. There are no more plates, you're just trading it for kind of pressure on the map, and anyone's legend playing the map really solidly right now, and ZDZ kind of getting everything he wants in this kind of matchup right now. He's actually gone from 20 CS down to nearly 20 CS up.
Yeah, Forge is the one that's losing out though, because he moved down towards the bottom side. He doesn't have TP to get it back towards the top lane, so he's losing out on the CS in the top lane. You can even see like 112 CS. He's the lowest out of any of the laners by pretty substantial margin, honestly, across the board. So Forge going to be taking a little bit of time to become very relevant in this game.
Tarzan has been spotted out here and has been caught out as he has to use the Cyclone and the Flash. He's trying to just get himself away. The Ignite's coming down. The TP is going to be challenged. They try to shotgun in on top of this. It's a good Glacial Fissure to try and disengage, and you can see that Iwandy's doing as much as he possibly can to save his jungler, but Tarzan, you heard this in the wrong place.
And now it's going to be anyone's legend that can actually get the Rift Herald off that play. You have Dragon in 50 seconds. They can try and do both, but it looks like instead they're going to give the Rift Herald over towards Xiaohao. Make sure that Bessie can try and push in mid, get position for this Dragon, and especially Rift Herald in the back pocket as well. It makes it so much easier for you to get that mid power that you want to move into river and try and contest that neutral.
And the TP comes in from light to try and reset and push in this mid lane, and they should be able to get some decent damage, if not the entire turret here, as Betty... They have got the Reaver's Wall, though. They may look for an engage, as the Never Move will not land. They will get the turret here, and they try and push something here, but anyone's legend not quite able to put themselves in a position to fight. And with 15 seconds till the Dragon spawns, Betty's got a reset. I don't think anyone's legend is going to be able to take this Dragon.
Yeah, unfortunately, Betty taking a bit of damage, not able to get the reset that he wanted in. And you actually also had a lot of ultimates used in this fight by anyone's legend, right? You get the ultimate coming through from the Camille, the Kaisa ultimate just there as well from Betty. And you can see there, they're just not able to contest. And that's going to be 3 dragons uncontested now for LNG. Anyone's legend really have to find ways to make sure they're actually playing that map correctly so they can be there for that 4th dragon.
You think of an Ocean Soul as well. An Ocean Soul on a Wukong, a Swain, a Jax. Very, very powerful tool to be able to keep them in the fight, continue those long, extended trading patterns for the side of LNG. So for anyone's legend, yes, they're making some good moves. Yes, they're being proactive, which is exactly what we wanted to see a change from Game 1 into now Game 2. But they're not quite getting the timings right, and it is starting to hurt them right now at the moment. So they need to fight in 4.5 minutes' time. But until then, they've got a couple of options to maybe, you know, mitigate the blow.
Kaisa moving up towards this top side. You can see already they're trying to get some sort of position here so they can try and get the Rift Herald. I imagine in towards the mid lane. Would love to try and get that full wave pushed out from top so you can rotate multiple members in towards the mid lane.
Oh, Xiaohao does get caught out a little bit. They can't really dash over those stones because it will just stun them up. And now Doinb flashing in on top of 3 people, gets joined in by the Jax and is doing so much work on this backside. Finally gets taken down. Now Ala trying to deal with the Yone and the Kaisa, but he's just getting burnt down, and that ends up being a 2-for-2 trade at the start of this one, and it's 3-for-3. Tarzan very low, and Light and Iwandy want nothing else to do with this, so it ends up being a 2-for-2 trade as anyone's legends get to feel the power of this Imperial Mandate, Swain.
Yeah, you're definitely giving some big kills over towards the carries of anyone's legend, though. 1 going towards Betty, 1 going towards Forge, but 3-0 now for Light. The kill as well going over towards Ala is going to help him out in that matchup in the top lane, but this is so back and forth, and even looking at the goal, right, it's nearly dead even. The only big separator here is 1 tower for LNG, those 3 dragons, and that's where we're going to see this game blow open, is in 3 minutes time, where if LNG can get the soul, it's going to be very difficult for anyone's legends to try and compete. But we're just going to catch our eyes on the replay here. As I don't know why everyone is here just trying to like hard force this play. Yeah, I mean, look, Scuttle is there, sure, but I mean, the least valuable of neutral objectives. And Xiaohao just barely gets clipped by the concussive blows from Braum, which means that Doinb's able to proc that, take out the jungler, and then Ala is just way too deep here as Doinb falls. Does nearly get Forge, but Forge able to get that nice little flash over the wall. Dodges away from the ultimate from Ezreal, and then more fancy feet to dodge back in towards the safety of his team.
I'll see if you can maybe find somebody roaming around, as Forge was up in this top side. No TP available for either Light or Allahs. They do end up using them to try and gain favor in this mid lane. 2 minutes time now. We will see that Dragon starting to see how powerful these AD carries are. Despite Betty having the most gold on his team, he's still about 1,500 gold behind the Ezreal, who is starting to build up towards that Serelda's grudge. It is becoming a bit of a nuisance. And this is exactly what you wanted to see from the side of LNG, relying on Light, who has proven time and time again he can be one of those big DPS carries for the side of LNG.
Yeah, I think Light has really made a big name for himself in the LPL, starting to come on as one of these major AD carries that we do look at to be a standout carry. And now we'll have to see if he's able to do it once more with 3 kills to his name, 2.5 items, and Dragon coming up shortly. This is his time to shine. Anyone's Legend, though, trying to contest the vision as LNG go to put it in. You do have CDZ on a bit of a flank, but will just hop himself over the wall and continue to deny vision for LNG.
Getting very tentative right now. Resets are going to start coming in. The final items to be picked up and vision control to be contested. So you can see now, if we look down, a couple of key stopwatches picked up on the side of LNG. They've got one for Tarzan and one for Light. So if Light's picked off, he can wait and give himself time. And as well for Tarzan, he can go deep, knowing that he's going to be able to catch out, you know, and kind of keep himself alive throughout these things. Big item power spike as well here for Doinb, as he finally picks up that Riley's Crystal Scepter beside the Imperial Mandate. Now, how do you want to see these two do, or where do you want to see these two teams fight this dragon, and how do you want to see them set it up?
So I think the big problem that you're seeing on kind of both sides is that key carries don't have the flashes available. Light, Doinb still waiting on theirs to come up. Forge, Bessie's both having theirs down. It means that if you get caught, you are done. So for ZDZ, trying to see if you can dive on towards Light with Forge is going to be so strong. Whereas on the flip side, if you can actually manage to get Tarzan in on towards Betty, that could be absolute disaster for anyone's Legend. These two AD carries very vulnerable right now.
Here we go. Flash in. Tarzan gets a Cyclone. He almost gets immediately deleted. The Fate Seal goes in on the Doinb to stop him from engaging in the rest of the team fight. The Demonic Ascension is good, and there's the Hextech Ultimatum to try and disengage, but look at Light. Again and again, we see this man just kiting out so beautifully. It looked like anyone's Legend had called the bluff, but without a jungler, I don't know if LNG are going to feel super comfortable trying to flip this dragon.
No, Xiaohao is there, has the flash just coming up and available. The Weaver's about to get over as well. LNG trying to bait anyone's Legend in and see if they can catch him.
Oh, they're going to go in. ZDZ, though, not quite able to get the stun down. That dragon is falling very quickly, and there's going to be no contention. So, Ocean Soul for LNG. They get the 2 kills, they get the Ocean Soul job done, and now they are in such a powerful position coming into this mid-game.
Honestly, I'm surprised Xiaohao didn't try and flash over the wall. I don't know if anyone didn't have vision in the bot lane or in their inventory or what the story was, but they just needed to get into that dragon pit and try and smite it away, but they don't manage to. So LNG win the fight, they get the soul, and now this is so much more difficult for anyone's Legend.
Yeah, the sustainability you now have on top of the already current sustainability that LNG had, as we look at the replay here. And again, Tarzan just goes in. You can see how quickly he almost dies, but that stopwatch we talked about earlier, so pivotal.
Yeah, but the problem here is, like, I'm looking at ZDZ, right? We talked about trying to get in onto the backline. ZDZ doesn't ult on towards Light, doesn't feel confident enough to try and set up the play there, and especially with Forge already been taken out of the equation. He's used his ultimate, he's not able to get back in to dive onto the backline, and that just means Light has just got so many bodies in front of him that he's able to play far forward, get the damage that he needs out. 4-0 now on this Ezreal. Light is a menace in these fights.
He really is, and the poke that's being put down now as he hits his 3rd item, finally got that Serelda's Grudge picked up. He is just doing so much to this front line, because again, they have got damage, but they haven't got the greatest of front lines to just beef up this poke. You know, the Camille is fine, the Nautilus is okay, but 2 or 3 Mystic shots, and all of a sudden that health bar is looking a lot more tenuous, shall we say, for anyone's Legend. And now, without an Ocean Soul, without any dragons, it's 24 minutes into the game, the power they have there. And again, that's what I'm talking about. Chocho, he can't really be the one to face check anymore. Oh, here we go, though. They're going to try and go for the full engage. There's going to be the counter-strike coming in as Allah trying to get himself away. They will get the kill down onto him as the rest of LNG try to funnel in. But look again, Light is just ripping through them, confident that Doinb will stay alive as they finally trade back their top lane. As Xiaohao going to lose his flash over the wall. And again, it's just so hard. Yes, you're getting a 1-for-1, but it doesn't matter because Light is still huge.
Yeah, now you get the reset back over towards the Baron for LNG. They know they're healthy enough to do this, and everyone has gone running for the hills on anyone's Legend side. And especially when you've already got the Ocean Soul as well, you're just going to restore your health so quickly as you go towards this objective.
Oh, they're going to try and look for it here. Betty going in very aggressively, trying to make something work. Forge trying to jump onto Light. The flash from Betty as he tries to get himself away from this fight. Actually, not even the flash. It was his ultimate, and now he's still doing work on top of this. Doinb taken very low. Forced the flash away. Light and Iwandy not quite able to continue this fight, but a TP coming in from Ala on the backside of this. Forge has scattered it out. They flash forward. There's Light feeling very comfortable, and you can see why. He knows he has the support of his team. As Ala flashes forward, not quite able to catch out Betty, but he is still hunting. Jojo, I do not care about you. Never mind, I do now. And they're going to take away an easy kill on that particular end of things. He's still pushing forward. ZDZ very tanky, so will not be taken out just yet, and they can go straight back towards this Baron.
Yeah, and that's exactly where they're going to go. Doinb, again, waiting for his team to come back towards this. You still have ZDZ here, though, and Kaisa, unfortunately, a little bit too low to try and help out, so this should be the Baron for LNG, despite the fact that Tarzan's only running out of base.
Yep, no junglers for either side, but it doesn't matter. LNG had created the space. They know how powerful they are, and when you're walking into an Ezreal who's this big, you cannot decide to go in for that without any real knowledge of what's happening.
Yeah, I'm going to see it here, right? I think Betty does a fantastic job of trying to get the damage off, but look how quickly Forge just disappears thanks to Light, managing to get all that damage down. So Betty gets one back, but here I actually got a bit nervous for LNG, where I was like, okay, maybe you've got the damage, maybe you've got enough, but Light once more, just waiting for that regen from the Ocean Soul. This is why it's so difficult for LNG. For anyone's Legend once LNG got that. And yeah, really well played by Light.
Yeah, just confident knowing that he could get the damage down. If he lands that Mystic Shot, gets himself the W down as well, he knows it's an insta-kill onto Taliyah, who, again, like we mentioned, is just not very tanky. These Mystic Shots are really starting to do something. He went back and picked up an entire GA. That's how much gold Light was sitting on, 6-0-2, and it's just becoming the carry they need him to be. You mentioned it about the Swain coming into the meta, how it's more of a facilitator. It's not really that big super carry you expect it to be. Light's doing exactly what he needs to do with Swain now in the back pocket.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once he started to get all this extra gold in the early stages, that's where you get a little bit worried. Anyone's Legend, again, not really able to set up Betty to be able to find those moments to fight back against the Ezreal. And now you're in a lot of trouble. As a lot of damage coming through, and a minute until Elder. LNG putting pressure onto this bot side means they can get a ton of vision in favor of themselves before the dragon spawns.
I mean, the dragon's spawning in 1:10, but you got to think that you got to survive the Baron buff, which is still going for 1:30. QiuQiu now has to back away. Light's just poking out the rest of anyone's Legend. They're going to be able to break open the base. And honestly, I don't see how you defend yourself against this push as the late game goes on. How do you try and get around this Elder Drake when you can't even defend your own base?
I mean, they needed to make the play there and then before the bot inhibitor went down. You had 5 members there, Ala pushing topside with no wave to try and put pressure onto the tier 2, but anyone's Legend missed their chance. Now they lose the bot. They're going to lose a good amount of damage onto this tier 2, and the vision control is established for LNG. Some miracle play has to come through again for anyone's Legend to steal on this Elder if they hope to keep this game in their favor.
I mean, we saw miracles last time around, but it does feel a lot more like LNG are, again, in much more control than the side of anyone's Legend. Light, look at this. He is unwavering. He does not care.
What do you like?
He has to care because he went far too deep. The demonic ascension has been popped. Betty's been exhausted as well. They're trying to jump there. ZDZ nearly gets himself onto Light. Light just dodging out on the Fate Seal. And what looks like it could have been a massive int play ends up being probably the final fight of this game. LNG, it almost looked a bit rocky, but anyone's Legend, they just don't have the money.
Yeah, we're unable to get on towards Light after he got the respawn. ZDZ dives the back line. Forrest tries to go in with the sealed fade, but actually gets knocked up by Tarzan. So perfectly orchestrated by Tarzan to prevent his AD carry from going down. The minions are trying to be denied access to Terror, but it doesn't matter.
It does not matter, or maybe it should. You got to be a little bit careful here. This Kaisa can do damage. You have to be very aware that Xiaohao is a full AP Taliyah. They'll get one Nexus turret. The Elder Drake has spawned, and importantly, Tarzan is no longer alive. Forge and ZDZ will be spawning very, very soon, and LNG, they may have overstayed their welcome.
I mean, maybe if you could actually get on towards Light or get this damage down. I mean, Elder Dragon, we said, could be the miracle they need.
Ala looking for something here. QiuQiu trying his very best to play Plays with his
Dodgeball.
fancy feet. They're pushing forward, but this is the vision control you talked about earlier. And honestly, anyone's letting you got to go for this. You have to try and do something, but they're going to get caught out. Xiaohao nearly taken down, but never mind. It's Xiaohao the first fall down. Doinb with his demonic ascension and light just ripping and tearing. Triple kill for the AD carry of LNG. And when you are this far ahead, when you have this many things going for you, there's only going to be one result.
And it is going to be the win for LNG. The 2-0 for LNG, taking down anyone's legend.
They take them down. It was a little bit scrappy in game 1. Game 2 felt an awful lot more composed, and you got to give it to Light on this Ezreal, really putting on an absolute masterclass of how to play this champ, and again, facilitating his team when they needed him most.
And I think that's the thing, right? We talked about how you have the opportunity with this Kaisa and with the Nautilus to try and play against this Ezreal on the bot side, like make his life a living hell, but we don't really get it. The Braum comes through to make sure that Light is able to keep himself in check, and then they're just able to put pressure onto the bottom side where you're taking towers, you're getting resources given over to Light with the Rift Tower being used by Tarzan, and from that point forward, Light just takes over these fights.
Yeah, again, just really good game here from LNG. They had a win condition, they played to it, and again, that's just how you expect this team to be able to play. A good win for them here. Still a couple of rough edges if they really want to be contesting the likes of RNG, EDG, V5, but it's a good start nonetheless, and I'm just scared, Dagda. I'm a little scared because we've seen this before from LNG. 2 splits in a row, we've seen them go 7-0, and it's been looking good, but I look at their schedule, and I think of all the teams they have to play. It's not exactly a hard run in terms of things. Like, again, look, yes, they have top esports in there, but top esports can be a flip at the best of times, so it can be another 7-0 because as soon as they get to that 8th game, they play JDG. So I'm a little scared we're going to get hyped again, and then we're going to be let down.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, right? When you look at like their upcoming schedule, like TT, OMG, and then the top esports game that you mentioned there, like it definitely is an easier run, but I think they kind of need that, to be honest. Like, not only is it like about giving us confidence, it is about giving LNG confidence as well. You can kind of see, look, their team fighting isn't as clean, especially when you look at BLG series, when you look at game 1 of this series. Like, there was definitive mistakes that were there, and trying to like clean that up takes time. And the fact that you've got until, you know, week 4 before you actually have to face up against one of our top teams in top esports, it does give you a bit of time to kind of right the wrongs and get yourself situated into a very new style that is not the split push we saw in the spring. It is this team fighting that seems to be the course for summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, having a good AD carry is going to be pivotal. It was in spring. Definitely can say it's going to be massive in summer as well. But like you said, meta is very fluid. The meta is constantly changing. Different teams prioritizing different setups to how they want to play the game. And for me right now, it does feel like LNG are starting to find their feet. They are starting to move themselves forward. For anyone's legend, it feels a bit bad. There was fantastic work for them in RA. There wasn't really a lot to go from in this particular series. And yes, they fought back in game 1, but game 2 just felt like they just didn't really have a game plan to what LNG brought to the table.
Yeah, and I think that's the big problem, is that again we're kind of seeing the early game isn't strong enough for anyone's legend to try and take down these top teams, because when they're able to get these early leads, now again game 2 they didn't get a huge early lead, but it was still the pace of the game being dictated by LNG, and you can see that once we kind of got towards that 25-minute part of the game, that's where LNG were able to come alive and find these really strong fights.
Yeah, it's real. Look at that. The way the game just kind of fell away from anyone's legend. It was 1-2 avalanche of mistakes or just getting caught out. And it did feel like LNG were the ones to force that hand. The early Dragon Soul meant you didn't really have an opportunity to try and set yourself up later on to the game where the Kaisa does have 3 items. So the Taliyah is basically able to one-shot anybody and everybody on the side of LNG. And these mid-game spikes just going to be so much bigger. That damage percentage from Light, my lord! 42.9, nearly 50% of his entire team's damage to that game is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of matched by Xiaohao as well, nearly 40% of his team's damage as well. You can see there was like people that were really trying their damnedest on anyone's legend to keep this game rolling, but just unfortunately that Light was as large as he was and able to churn out so much damage. Like, it was absolutely insane.
It really, really was. And again, good moves here from LNG. Like you mentioned, we will see them in their next series